Welcome into today's two-round mock draft. We're going to do a Superflex no tight end premium mock draft today, Joe and I, for your incoming 2026 rookie class. All right, we're super excited here. The regular season is done for college football, so we're just going to get right into bringing you our 2026 rookie mock draft. And with the first pick, we have Joe here on the clock.
Yeah, first pick here is probably the biggest toss-up of the entire top 24 we have going on. I'm obviously between Jordyn Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State, and Jeremiyah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. Two guys I think that are the best prospects at their positions for this upcoming draft. I'm narrowly going to go with Jordyn Tyson, though, as my number one overall player in this class. 6'2", 200 pounds. I think he's the most complete receiver in this entire draft class. It's a very deep receiver class, in my opinion. 61 receptions, 711 yards, and 8 touchdowns this season. A chunk of that even without a starting quarterback, Sam Levitt, who's been injured for the past couple games. Jordyn Tyson's just a natural separator. He's just an elite route runner. He can win at all levels of the field, short, intermediate, deep. It doesn't matter. I think he could step in and be a very effective wide receiver one for any NFL team, and I think that he's going to get top 10 draft capital, which is extremely important for projecting NFL success. I think he's going to be involved from day one. He's just a very complete prospect, a great athlete, good after the catch, can make some really athletic grabs. His route running is just masterful. He can make defensive backs fall down with how good he is at times, and he's my number one overall player.
Tyson is a great wide receiver, and I look at this class as having probably like 3 wide receivers in that top tier, Tyson being one of them. He's really an all do-it-all wide receiver. He can do everything, all levels of the field. He has that burst after the catch. He's good at the catch point. Yeah, so I really can't blame you with going for Tyson here. I will say I was surprised you didn't go with Jeremiyah Love. That's going to be my pick here at
Yeah.
number 2 in this mock draft, and I think he is going to be off the board in most drafts. Pick number 2 when we get to rookie season. Not to say these wide receivers aren't great; they are. But I think of Jeremiyah Love in being in a tier of his own right now. I compare him very similarly to Genty last year. Genty, an amazing season, played outside of those Power Four conferences, so there were still some questions there coming to the league. I think Jeremiyah Love playing with Notre Dame doesn't have those questions. He's just an all-around great back. He's one of the best, if not the best, pass catcher in this class at the running back position. He's probably the best tackle breaker, the most explosive, an exceptional athlete. And he put up the production over these last 2 seasons at Notre Dame to really prove himself as a worthy top prospect in this class. I think right when he enters the NFL, if it's a good landing spot, we could be talking about round 1 of startup drafts come the off season. Even with just a regular landing spot, I think he'll be going in that second round 2-3 turn of startup drafts. So he is just to me an otherworldly valuable prospect coming into the league.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. I think he's on that Genty level of prospect tiers. Landing spot, could be a big thing for him, but also, does he have the talent to just buff through it to produce no matter where he is? It's going to be a really interesting thing, but I think you're right. We could see him go round 1 in startup drafts. It was a really toss-up decision for me, but I'm just such a big Tyson fan. But I totally respect the Love choice. I think the argument is clear for him to go number 1 in a lot of these rookie drafts. He's such a great, well-rounded, powerful running back. I think he's going to make a great pro. For my next pick, I'm going to go with Makai Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. We've already talked about how, there's that big 3 wide receiver group there at the top. In the top tier, you have Tyson, Makai Lemon, and then Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, who I'm sure is going to get brought up very soon here. Makai Lemon is a fantastic athlete. He does a lot of things, I think, similarly to Jordyn Tyson. He's a great rounder. He's a great route runner. He's good after the catch. And Makai Lemon is very quick. He's very agile. He's good at avoiding defenders after the catch. He can make yards out of nothing. He's been extremely efficient this year. One of the leading receivers in all of college football. He's been absolutely fantastic. Over 1,100 receiving yards and 11 receiving touchdowns this season. He's my wide receiver too, very narrowly over Carnell Tate. I just think he does all amazing things very, very well. USC puts out a lot of great pro wide receivers. Guys like Michael Pittman Jr., Drake London, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think Makai Lemon is going to be the next in line.
I was very much hoping that Makai Lemon would fall to me at 4 here. Obviously, that's going to be a stretch in most of your drafts. So I don't blame you at all for taking Lemon there. He's doing it all at the college level right now. He was actually my number one going into the season, and he blew away my expectations. I thought maybe the class would just be a weaker, and he'd be a weaker number one. No, this has been a very strong wide receiver class,
Yeah.
and Makai Lemon deserves to be among the top at the position there. He's top 5 in pretty much every statistical category this season. He's second in yards per route run. He's been super efficient, while being the number one producer in receiving yards, top in receptions and touchdowns. There's really nowhere in his profile statistically that you can go wrong. The only hit on him going into the draft is going to be his size, 5'11", 195. If he comes in a little lower than that at the combine, then there might start to be some questions. But I don't think nearly enough questions for me to drop him from a fantasy perspective. Moving on to my pick here, the 4th overall pick in this mock draft. I think this is the final player in this tier, so I'm happy to have the 4th pick here. And if you can acquire the 4th pick in your drafts, go ahead and do it. But right here, as you mentioned, Joe, Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, the wide receiver. Tate has been an huge riser recently, going up a lot of draft boards. A lot of people now have him as the number one wide receiver in this class, and it's really hard to blame them. He has been incredibly efficient. Like, efficiency is the banner for Carnell Tate's profile right now. 3.54 yards per route run. That is by far the highest among power 4 wide receivers in this class. Second's Makai Lemon. He's around like 3.1. No one else is crossing 3, I don't think. So Carnell Tate is in a world of his own in terms of efficiency. 44 receptions is not a high mark. That's what he's at right now. It ranks 61st among the power 4 receivers in this class. But with it, he's putting together great efficiency. 18 yards per reception is insane for the amount of volume he's getting right now, and he leads all power 4 receivers, or is at least tied in touchdowns with 11. Now, his spot at Ohio State can either be a plus or a minus, depending on how you're looking at it. He's never got to put on a show as the number one wide receiver because he shared the field with Emeka Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith, Marvin Harrison Jr. In his time at Ohio State. On the other side, you'll say, well, those guys are going to take away some of the coverage away from him. I think that he's been so good this season that he's competed with Jeremiah Smith as the number one wide receiver on this Ohio State team, and just to be able to be in that conversation makes him an absolute slam dunk at number 4 in this mock draft for me.
Yeah, Carnell Tate was one of my favorite players coming into this college football season. Obviously, Ohio State is really good at pumping out these receiver prospects. They've done it for 5-6 years now straight with these first-round talent guys. And Carnell Tate is just next in line. Coming into the year and early in the season, I kind of compared his rise to a guy like Emeka Egbuka. I don't think they're super similar in play style, but the way they just rose up draft boards coming into the pre-draft process, I think Tate's going to continue to do that. And I could see him going middle of the first round, maybe even earlier than Egbuka did, and just entering like Egbuka did as this pro-ready, a high-floor type player who I think is going to make an instant impact. A guy like Tate, he's 6'3", he can make those contested catches. He can route up defenders. He can win on all levels. He's a very well-rounded prospect with an extremely high floor who I think is very ready for the professional level. For my next pick, I'm going to go with the guy who is in the dead heat of the Heisman race right now. This is Superflex, so we're going to go with the quarterback. It's Fernando Mendoza, a guy that you, Calvin, were very high on coming into the year. I have to give you credit for that. He's been absolutely fantastic for Indiana so far this season. 32 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He does everything well. He's a great thrower of the deep ball. He can layer his throws really well. He's been extremely accurate so far this season, connecting with guys like Elijah Sarratt and Omar Cooper. And this Indiana offense has been absolutely unstoppable. They're going to match up with Ohio State. That's going to be a very interesting game for Mendoza if he can match up against this number one defense in the nation. But he's looked totally in control all season long, able to use his legs when he needs to as well. But he is my number one overall quarterback prospect, and it's not even close in my opinion. There's a pretty big gap between number 1 and number 2 for me. So I'm super excited to get Mendoza here, locking up my quarterback in the Superflex draft. He's a great reader of the field. He can make any throw. He's a really good pocket passer, and I think he's a high floor guy that I think should be the first quarterback off the board in the draft.
Absolutely. Mendoza is my top quarterback in this class as well. I'd be considering him right around here in these Superflex drafts as well. He really checks all the boxes that I need out of a quarterback. He looks really good on film. He can make throws at all levels of the field. His statistical profile looks very good this season. Showed signs at Cal last year, but really had that breakout statistically this season. He has the requisite number of starts to enter the NFL. That's something that QBs in this class don't really have. We'll talk about a few later. Less experienced quarterbacks. Mendoza has multiple years of starting experience in the college level. I think that's something that's super important, especially now with the way NFL treats the quarterback position. There's just no time for development once you enter the NFL. It's right to the wolves in the NFL at that position. So someone with experience like Mendoza, one thing I'll say from a fantasy perspective is also his rushing upside. He's not incredibly fast, but 6'5", 225, maybe even a couple pounds heavier than that on that frame. He could absolutely be a goal line type rusher, a Josh Allen or a Jalen Hurts around the goal line. He has 6 rushing touchdowns on the season here with Indiana. If he can just get a handful of rushing touchdowns on the goal line in the NFL, that will absolutely bolster his profile.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the 6th pick here. I'm going back to wide receiver, and you're going to hear a lot of wide receivers in this class, and that is Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M. So Concepcion is someone who was really hyped up after his freshman season over at NC State, played very well, super exciting in your Devy leagues. Kind of fell off a little bit in year 2, but he really found the magic again here in year 3 after transferring to Texas A&M. Has had an absolutely incredible season, and while the stats are good, he's 6th in yards per route run in the class among the Power 4 receivers, so the efficiency is there. I think what really pops is just what he does on tape. He really he's an incredible athlete. The quickness on Concepcion is incredible. Now, right now he's listed at 190 pounds. I think he might even be under that, but that's expected for someone as quick as him. His change of direction is exceptional. You can use him in that screen game, but that's not all he does. That definitely limits a player. He has ability down the field. He's got 15 and a half yards per reception on the season. He's being used down the field. He's able to beat guys in the second level, get open, and make these catches tracking the ball down the field. You need both of those to be an elite wide receiver in the NFL, and I think Concepcion's one of the guys in this class that has that potential to be a future wide receiver 1 for fantasy with his combination of speed, route running, and just overall quickness.
Yeah, Concepcion is a guy that I was a big fan of coming into this season. I love the decision for him to go to Texas A&M, and he and Mario Craver have formed one of the best duos in all of college football as far as wide receiver duos go. He's been absolutely fantastic this year. You're right, his tape has been amazing. His ability after the catch with his blazing speed is something that just jumps out immediately. But yes, his ability downfield to not only make these deep receptions to burn defenses deep, but also make the contested catch every once in a while. He's made some ridiculously athletic, acrobatic catches, and I think we're seeing some first round buzz for Concepcion, and that draft capital is pretty significant. He's a prospect I'm a big fan of coming into the draft. For my next player here, I'm going to go with a running back, a guy that's been an absolute home run hitter this season, and that's Justice Haynes for the Michigan Wolverines. Haynes, he's been injured for the past couple games, but has still racked up 857 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, and over 7 yards per carry this season. His decision to transfer from Alabama to Michigan was one of my favorite transfer portal moves of the entire offseason, and it absolutely paid off for the Wolverines. He was the engine at that offense all season long, putting up some ridiculous statistical performances. And his ability, just as a home run hitter, he's always capable of bursting off that 50-yard run. He's also a pretty powerful runner. At 210 pounds, there's some stockiness in that frame. And his ability as a mover, a lateral mover especially, is pretty impressive to me. So I think he's a pretty well-rounded prospect. Maybe not the blazing speed you expect, but he can rip off those big runs. And I think he could be a very efficient, a very talented running back at the next level. He's been fantastic for Michigan.
I am gonna keep getting sniped on these picks. I know it. You're taking all the guys I like. No, Justice Haynes is great. He's definitely the number two running back in the class for me, and I think kind of in a tier of his own here. The talent at running back kind of falls off a bit after Haynes here. Not that there aren't some good deeper running backs, but Haynes has been very good this season. He only played though 7 games, maybe 6 games this
Yep.
season for Michigan. Got injured fairly early on and has been kept out for the rest of the season. Uh, that's something that I think could hurt his profile a little bit in the dynasty community. People just didn't get to see a lot of him later in the season when more of the casual fans started tuning in to college football. But Haynes doesn't deserve to be dropped at all. He was absolutely electric in his time in Michigan. Maybe would have been considered even higher if he finished out the season doing what he was doing and be in that conversation with the top wide receivers in this class. That's just how good he was. Moving over to the eighth pick here, I'm going back to wide receiver. I don't know if I'm going to take anything but wide receiver in this draft, but I've got Elijah Sarratt here, the Indiana wide receiver. I've been super high on Sarratt for a while now, and seeing what he's done with this Indiana team, he's been a big reason that this team has been so good. The number one or number two ranked team right now behind Ohio State has paired up perfectly with Fernando Mendoza at quarterback. Despite missing a few games, and I know it's hurting his statistical profile a bit, he still leads Power Four wide receivers with that 11 touchdown mark. I think there's like a 4 or 5 way tie, but still among the top after missing a couple games. It's really just shown where he's excelled on the field. It's in these shorter routes, slant routes, in breaking routes. When you need to pick up a first down, when you need a touchdown, a back shoulder fade in the end zone, Elijah Sarratt is your guy. He is perfect in these situations. And it's not to say he's limited to just that role. Looking back just last year, his role with Indiana was very different. He was used more as a deep threat kind of player. I comped him earlier in the process to Terry McLaurin because he was just using his abilities to get downfield and make these outrageous catches down the field. He was an absolutely electric player at that role, and now he's playing a different role and excelling just as well, if not more. One thing on his profile that I think people are hitting him with is that he's transferred a few times. He's a little bit of an older prospect. He's 22 years old right now instead of some of like the 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds in the class. Uh, I don't think that's a hit on him. He started at a smaller school, transferred. He actually transferred with Coach Signetti from James Madison to Indiana here, and has excelled at every level that he's played at. I think that's a plus more than it is a hit on his profile.
Yeah, Elijah Sarratt is a guy that I had him right behind where you had him ranked. I was going to take him if you didn't on my board. Mr. Consistent is kind of what I think of when I think of Sarratt, a guy that's always able to get open no matter where he's out in the field. Consistent route runner, he's got consistent hands, he's reliable. He's going to be that security receiver for a quarterback at the next level. I see him getting mocked a lot in the second round. I think that's a really good spot for him to be in, to maybe go to a team. We don't know where his landing spot's going to be, but there are a lot of good ones for Sarratt where he can fit in. Maybe as that wide receiver too, maybe working his way into the top option on an offense. But I think he's a great prospect. Good pick there. I'm going to keep the run on wide receivers going with Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington, a guy that's been trending up in the dynasty community a lot recently. He's had a really strong season up to this point. 755 receiving yards, 10 receiving touchdowns, that's fifth in the class, as well as 13 and a half yards per reception. A guy I've been really impressed with this year. And he was a player that a lot of people weren't sure on coming into the season. He was a wait and see. Can we put him this high in rankings? Can he be a high draft pick? I'm seeing him mocked in the first round a lot, pretty consistently. When you look at his profile, 6'4", 209, there's an obvious plus there with the size. You think of a guy that can, win deep. He can box out defenders, a physical receiver at the catch point, a guy that can make those contested catches when you need him to, but also an underrated athlete. I think he can make some moves after the catch. You see a lot of these physical receivers that may not be the fastest guys in the world, and while Denzel Boston isn't a burner, he's got some underrated speed on him, and I think he could test fairly well. He's a great athlete. But again, just a physical receiver, who can box out defenders. 209 pounds as well. He's got some thickness to him. So the athletic profile is really what draws NFL teams to him. There's a lot of teams that are going to be looking for a big physical receiver to win on the outside, and that's Boston to a T, I think.
Totally agree with you on Boston. My only drawback with Boston is I think he's been used at Washington more as just a sideline, deep, go down the field, use your size, make the catch kind of guy, jump ball specialist, whatever you want to call it. I've comped him to Mike Williams in that way,
Mm,
kind of a more one-dimensional wide receiver. And that's just the way he's been used. I think he has the ability to do a lot more. I think the ceiling is very high. Boston might have the highest ceiling in this entire class, and that's saying a lot. With him being, I think, our seventh wide receiver off the board here, and for
yeah.
him to have our sixth wide receiver off the board and to have this high of a ceiling, it just shows how deep this wide receiver class is. If he can put it together, if he's used in more creative ways over the middle of the field on a larger volume in the NFL, then he could absolutely be a breakout star, a Drake London type player. But hey, if Mike Williams is your floor, I'm not too upset about that with the Drake London ceiling as well.
Fair.
All right, I'm going to have to stop the wide receiver run here and move back over to quarterback. This is a place where I'm actually between a couple quarterbacks that I could go with, but here I want to highlight Dante Moore. Now, Moore might actually not declare for this class. He's a younger quarterback. I think he's only 20 years old. He's got only a season and about a half of starting experience. So that's probably my biggest hit on his profile. It is just not enough experience at the college level for me to be super confident in these drafts to put him in this top half of the first round. But right here, I'm super happy taking Dante Moore. He's been excellent for this Oregon offense, this very good Oregon offense. The one drawback is they haven't had to play the toughest competition. They've won a lot of games pretty handedly, and he hasn't needed to air the ball out as much as some of the other quarterbacks in this class. Still, every time I watch Dante Moore on film, there's not a throw he can't make. He has a lot more speed, a lot more mobility than some of the other quarterbacks in this class, more so than Mendoza. He's able to throw on the run extremely well, or well in rhythm in the pocket, something that's important for NFL quarterbacks as well. I say it's probably most likely that he's not going to declare for the draft this year. He'll probably stay back in college, but a good run in the college football playoffs could absolutely change his mind if he's a lock for a top three pick in the NFL draft. He might just have to say yes at that opportunity.
Yeah, Moore's been one of the biggest risers in all of college football this season. I definitely see where you're going with there, especially I think this is kind of a steal getting him in a super flex league like this so late in the first round. Maybe I should have taken him last pick. But I think he's a pretty solid prospect. I think you're right. He may choose not to declare this season, come back to Oregon for another year. There's nothing wrong with that. Like you said earlier, NFL teams are valuing quarterbacks who have more starts under their belt. So there's nothing wrong with coming back. But if he is guaranteed that top three spot, I think you're correct. He should declare. He'll be probably even higher than this in Superflex leagues by the time we get to rookie draft season. My next player here, I'm going to go back to the running back position, a guy that I think is very underrated, but is slowly climbing up these draft boards. I know, Calvin, you and I had him pretty high up in our rankings early on, and that's Jadarian Price, Jeremiyah Love's partner in crime at Notre Dame. He's been very good this season, in my opinion. Started off the season pretty hot, but he's been pretty solid over the course of the year. 674 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns at 5'11", 209. This is kind of the lightning to Jeremiyah Love's thunder. That's not to say that Jadarian Price isn't also a very well-rounded prospect, but he has the power, but also the lightning quickness to his game, capable of ripping off those huge runs, making defenders miss when it matters, but also packs a punch when he needs to at 209. I've been very impressed with him this season. A guy that I didn't know a lot about coming in to the year, but his tape has just made me take a second look at him, and I think he could be one of the best running backs in this draft if he's given the chance, with the right landing spot, of course. But he's been nothing short of fantastic this season at Notre Dame. Some really impressive performances there. I just love his game, well-rounded, a smart player with a lot of good attributes. He's been the perfect complement to Love. I'm interested to see if he can be a starting running back at the NFL level.
Absolutely. With Price, when you first described this backfield as the thunder and lightning, or however you described it, I wasn't sure who was who because they
Yeah,
both do both so well. But you're right, Price is absolutely an electric speedster. But I'm super impressed with the strength he plays between the tackles as well. I see him taking on goal line work at the NFL
yeah,
level. Probably the only downside, and I agree, he's my number three running back in this class. The only downside in his profile is he hasn't had any pass catching production.
yeah.
Now maybe that's just because Jeremiyah Love's so good at it. He's among the best in the class. That why would you use Price in that role? That being said, it would have been nice to see him do a little more as a pass catcher in college. I've seen him mocked recently to the Texans. I think that's an
Mm,
awesome landing spot. If he ends
yes.
up there, I'm going to be so excited. The Joe Mixon situation, he's probably not on the team anymore after this season. Woody Marks has been very good, but is more of a pass catching down player. I think Jadarian Price would slot in perfectly on a high touchdown potential team as that goal line back, that between the 20s back as well. I'd be super excited about that kind of a landing spot. All right, and with the last pick of the first round of this rookie mock draft, I'm going to take the first tight end off of the board, and that is going to be Kenyon Sadiq. Sadiq, I the stats aren't going to do him justice this season. I would have liked to see the production be a little bit better, but when you watch the film, you just can't deny that Sadiq is an electric playmaker. I don't even want to call him a tight end because he's more of just a slot playmaker, weapon, receiver, whatever you want to say. But tight end might be boxing him in too much. I think of him more like an uber athletic Harold Fannin from last year. You don't necessarily want to line him up in line as much. You want to use him more in space. That's not to say Sadiq isn't a good blocker. He can get into the second level, block linebackers very well. You're just not going to isolate him on the edge against Myles Garrett or something
Yeah.
like that. But as a playmaker out in space, he makes incredible catches, diving catches, high points the ball, makes guys miss, hurdles guys. Like this is the Jeremiyah Love athlete at the tight end position here in Kenyon Sadiq, and it's someone I'm super excited about. If he had the production, I would put him up in that Warren Loveland tier from a year ago, who would be a tight end one entering Dynasty right away, maybe like a top five tight end in the Dynasty landscape. The production wasn't quite there this season. Maybe he goes off in this college football playoff run, for Oregon, but even without that high level production, he still had good production. He still led Power Four tight ends in touchdowns and showed off more than enough as an athlete for me to take a chance on him at the end of the first round of this rookie mock.
That is a great pick. I think you got a steal there. I had all of Sadiq's stats pulled up, ready to take him with my next pick. Good snipe on your part. He is an athletic freak. Uh, you said it yourself. He can make some amazing catches. He's great after the catch. He's also shined a bit as a blocker as well. Done some really good work there at Oregon this season. So he may be the type of guy that may not leave the field very much. And we've seen a tight end with some elite receiving capabilities like Harold Fannin make an instant impact this year, which we didn't even know he was going to be doing that. But Sadiq has been nothing short of fantastic. I've seen him mocked all over the first round, even some crazy ones putting him in the top 10. We'll see where he actually ends up landing. But he's certainly a first round prospect, in my opinion. A guy that can really do it all athletically, a great receiving option. I think he's going to be fantastic. Hope you guys are enjoying this mock draft so far. Don't forget to comment down below who your top rookie is in this class and who your favorite pick has been so far from our mock draft. I'm sure we have a lot of differing opinions, especially if we're going to see a lot in the comments. We'll be glad to respond to a ton of those down below. So don't forget to comment that after you watch the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Dynasty Trading Room YouTube channel for content like this all off-season long, heading into the draft and then back into next season. Breaking into our second round here, I'm going to take a guy I've seen mocked in a lot of rookie mocks at the end of the first. That's Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of USC. Another one of these USC wide receivers on my team. This is a guy that I hadn't done a ton of research on over until the last couple weeks. But once I dove into the film, the highlights, the stats, this is a dude I really fell in love with as a prospect. You look at him physically, 6'4", 200 pounds, and he plays like it. This is a dude that boxes out, can make every contested catch in the book, has some ridiculous hands, makes some crazy one-handed catches in the end zone, good red zone threat, 745 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns this season. Also 11 contested catches so far, which is 10th in the class. That's kind of his calling card as a prospect. he is so good at making those contested catches, attacking the catch point, just boxing out defenders. Those smaller defenders, he's a mismatch on them as well. But that's not his only great attribute. He can also burn defenses deep. He's got some underrated speed for his size. Again, 6'4", 200. This guy can fly. He can make some moves after the catch with his acceleration. He can burn the defense, make some huge plays. So you're looking at a big play threat overall for an offense that can maybe snag him in the second round, maybe third round as well. But if you can get him in the second round of your rookie draft, that is a steal in my opinion. This dude has a ridiculously high ceiling. If you throw it up to him, he's going to come down with the football. That's who Jacoby Lane is, and I'm excited to see where he falls in the NFL draft.
Once you get into this range of drafts, it's rare that you find a receiver with a truly elite skill like Jacoby Lane has. That's his ability to make those contested catches. He has probably like 2 or 3 of the craziest catches in all of college football this season. He's just been that good. You throw the ball up to him, and he makes good things happen. On top of that, the amount of times I've watched a lot of USC football this season. I've been absolutely amazed with what Makai Lemon and him have done. There's been so many plays that he gets pass interference calls as well, because you just throw the ball up to him and he makes something happen. Defenders have to foul him to stop these big plays from happening. So even as good as his stats have been, I think they would have been even better if not for all his pass interference calls. All right, moving on to the 14th player in this mock draft. I'm going to go back to quarterback, and this is another quarterback that might not declare for this draft. And that is LaNorris Sellers for South Carolina. The stats are not going to wow anyone with Sellers. It's been a terrible season statistically for Sellers for this entire South Carolina offense, but I don't think that is Sellers' fault. Watching the film of him, there are so many plays out there that receivers, 1, aren't getting open, 2, are dropping the ball, 3, just not making good efforts on good throws that Sellers is making. And I was not a big fan of Sellers coming into the season. I don't really like the project rushing quarterback that doesn't show a lot with his arm. Sellers, I think, has taken great strides this season in throwing players open, good anticipation, reading defenses. These are things I didn't see from him previously, but this year I'm seeing it on film. It's just not showing up on stats because his team is really letting him down. This offensive line, too, it is not good. He is being pressured on almost 50% of his dropbacks this season. Like, no one can be successful in this type of system. I think it's very likely that Sellers does go back to college, probably not South Carolina. He's probably done there. But a transfer to a school like Indiana or an Oregon, if Dante Moore were to declare one of these top schools, I think he'd be a great opportunity to really shine. The calling card here with Sellers, like I said, I think his passing has improved, but it's the rushing ability. Even in this terrible offense, 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. He's broken the most tackles of any quarterback among the Power 4 conferences. He is 240 pounds, 6'3". He plays like Cam Newton out there. He has that size to break tackles and that athleticism to break off huge runs. And we're talking about fantasy here. Maybe he's not worthy of this slot as an actual NFL quarterback, but in terms of fantasy, he could enter the league as a top 3 rushing quarterback right off the bat, and we love that for fantasy.
Yeah, it's no secret that it's been a rough season for the Gamecocks and for LaNorris Sellers, but the physical tools, like you said, are still there. I like to say he throws spears, he throws javelins when he throws the football downfield. It just rockets off his arm. He has incredible arm strength, and again, that rushing ability as a power rusher, as a rusher in space, really impressive. So the ceiling is certainly there. We'll see if he comes back or transfers. Miami, the Hurricanes are a name I've been hearing in the transfer portal for him, but we will see. My next pick, I'm going to take another running back, and that's a guy that I know we both have high up in our rankings. That's Jonah Coleman, running back for the Washington Huskies. A guy that, you look at his prospect profile, 5'9", 228. He's built like a bowling ball. There's no secret about that. A huge running back who can bounce off tacklers. He's physical. He can bowl defenders over. That's a really good part of his skill set. But he has that kind of hidden talent. He can make a jump cut and just be gone. He can have those huge rip off runs, 50-yard touchdowns, 30-yard touchdowns at any point in the game. If he makes that jump cut, makes one defender miss, he might just be gone. He hasn't had any crazy rushing performances this year, but he's been pretty steady. 673 yards and 14 touchdowns. He can be that goal line back for sure. Get a lot of work at the NFL level in that range. He's just, I think he's a high floor prospect at the position. Maybe not the highest ceiling in the world, but I think he can come in and do some good work as a power back with the ability to rip off those big runs.
Coleman's had some troubles with efficiency over the back half of this season, and people notice that when they look at the stats. I'll just note he's dealt with some injuries here down the stretch, so a couple of those games don't hold that against him. He didn't lose the starting job or anything, just been banged up, and they kind of forced him back quickly. He wanted to close out his career at Washington, a very good career by Coleman. Something that stands out in his profile this year, though, absolutely exceptional as a pass catcher. He's among the top players in all, or the top running backs in all statistical categories, receiving wise, and that's something for fantasy. We want to either be scoring touchdowns or catching passes, possibly both. At the running back position, Coleman does both of those things very well. All right, this next pick for me is one that's really hard. I could probably go at any position. There's players that I'm excited about here. I'm going to go back to tight end here, and I'm going to take, with the second tight end off the board, probably someone who's not the number 2 tight end for most, and that is Michael Trigg, the tight end for Baylor. If you look at his statistical profile, he maybe should be in consideration for the top tight end in this class. He's top 3 in every major statistical category among the Power 4 tight ends. Third in receptions, second in yards, first in yards per reception. He's just been great all over the field. Something that really stands out, though, is his missed tackles for 17th on the season. That ranks, I think, in the top 5 of all pass catchers, including the wide receivers, but ranks in second at tight end. He has absolutely great second gear once he gets the ball in his hands to be able to make guys miss. He's got great contact balance with these tackles. It almost looks like Gronk back in the day with the way that he just couldn't go down. He wouldn't get tackled. Now, this isn't a Gronk prospect. Gronk is one of one, but he has shades of that kind of ability, that kind of archetype. One hit, well, I guess there's 2 main hits on him. One, there's been some drops attributed to him, so people think his drop rate's really high. I went back and watched all the games where he was marked with drops. These should not be drops, and this is kind of a warning about some of these stats that are more subjective. A lot of these plays were just incredibly tough plays, defenders breaking it up, overthrow by the quarterback. Sometimes I thought the scorekeepers were like the quarterback's mom or something, trying to give drops to Trigg on these. The other hit on his profiles, he's 23 years old. I think in the current landscape of college football, we just have to stop worrying about ages as much, about these later breakouts. These players are going to stay in college longer. They have more earning potential in college than they used to. The only path isn't to go to the NFL right away. So I'm not going to drop a player like Trigg for being 23 years old, a year or two older than other tight ends in this class, with how good he's been on the field.
Yeah, this is a tight end class that I think we're going to get more clarification on some consensus rankings after the testing numbers comes out. We didn't really have a clear-cut tight end 1 at the beginning of the season. That was, one of the biggest questions coming at a lot of draft analysts. But Trigg is certainly a solid tight end that I think could turn into a really good player. I think your analysis was spot on there. I may have a different guy at my tight end 2 slot, but I think Trigg is a guy that can really develop into a good player. With my next pick, I'm going to go back to the quarterback position. A guy that I believe is still on the board, that's Ty Simpson, quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Not a guy I originally planned on selecting. He's not my top quarterback prospect or anything like that, but a guy that I think could be maybe a top 5 pick if you look at it. He's trending up in a lot of draft circles. Teams are very quarterback needy this season, and he could go to a number of teams that may need that position. He's a guy that there's a lot of good film on him this year. He can throw with anticipation. He's shown the ability to be cool under pressure, but there's also been some red flags that you go back in the tape. Maybe his footwork isn't that clean, his delivery, things like that. But I think at this point in Superflex, if you could get a quarterback that's being selected in the first round, this late in this second round, I think it's certainly worth pulling the trigger and selecting him. A guy, with that ceiling, but also maybe that lower floor I'm a little concerned about. Like I said, Mendoza's my quarterback one, pretty clear cut. But if I can get Simpson here, a guy with a high ceiling to round out my team at the quarterback position, I'm pretty happy about that. A guy that takes care of the football, only 4 interceptions this season. That's one of the lowest marks in all of college football. A good yardage output with 3,000 yards, just over 3,000 yards so far, as well as 25 passing touchdowns. So a guy that could develop into something good, but if he doesn't, he's just my quarterback too.
It's an absolute steal getting Simpson where you are there. Someone who could be taken as a top 5 pick in the NFL draft in a super flex league, getting him in the second round. That won't be happening if he does declare for the draft and he gets drafted in the top 5, which I think he could.
Sure.
I'm worried about Simpson because he's a 1-year starter in college. I'm surprised I haven't heard more talk of him going back, being that he is the one true 1-year starter in Alabama there. He didn't start a single game before the season. And sometimes it shows up on tape. There are games where I think he's the best player in this class. He looks absolutely exceptional, dissecting defenses, makes every throw, good arm. And then there's other games where I'm like, this guy is not an NFL talent whatsoever.
Yes.
And that's just the reality of inexperience. This is his first year starting for an SEC school with huge expectations there in Alabama. That being said, he has immense talent. There's potential there. I'm just worried if he gets drafted somewhere like the Jets and they want him to start day one. I think we might be looking at another, maybe like a Sam Darnold situation where that breakout comes later in his career once he's moved around a bit and had some time to develop. If he lands somewhere like the Rams behind Matthew Stafford, he can sit, learn behind Stafford with McVay there as a play caller, then I'm gonna throw him so far up my boards. He will be up in probably like the top 3 or 4 with that kind of a landing spot. But as it said right now, great value here in the second round. Now with the 18th pick, I'm gonna go to running back and maybe someone that a lot of you haven't heard about yet, and that's Mike Washington Jr., the running back for Arkansas. Washington has been absolutely exceptional this season, statistically on tape. Just look at his statistical profile here: 6th in yards, 6th in yards per attempt. He has the volume, he has the efficiency. He's even been a solid pass catcher, just under 1 yard per route run. That ranks 15th in the class, so a totally reasonable number there. He absolutely is a monster on the field too. 6'2", 228 pounds. This is a big running back built for the NFL, and we don't have a lot of running backs like that in this class, so he really stands out. On film, what stands out though is that he pairs that size with exceptional speed and acceleration. This is a guy who can absolutely break away on big runs, turn out big chunk plays after breaking a tackle. And good luck to anyone in the second level trying to tackle this monster coming at you. It's the closest thing in this class we have to like a Derrick Henry type of running back. I think Mike Washington's in line to get a starting job entering the NFL. It's maybe not something that's a given or expected by the whole community right now, but I think he's going to be a big riser once we see what he can do at the NFL Combine.
Yeah, a guy that's been coming up my board. I think you kind of put me on him originally, and not a name I was super familiar with, but that power. He plays like his size, but also the speed, very impressive. A guy that can do it all. He's been very productive this year for sure as well. I'm going to go into my next pick here. Another one I wasn't super familiar with coming into the season, but has been a rock star this season for Louisville at the wide receiver position. That is Chris Bell. Another name I've seen mocked in the late first round in some of these mock drafts. He's just a ridiculous athlete. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. So you're thinking he's this big jump ball receiver. He can do that, but also after the catch, he really excels. He's got some crazy speed. He can pull away from defenders downfield. If you give it to him in the middle of the field, he can take it down for a touchdown. We've seen that multiple times. And then if you look at some of his production, just looking at his game log, 3 straight games here against Pitt, 135 yards and a touchdown. Against ranked number 2 Miami at the same time, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. Against Virginia, a ranked team, 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's been putting up some insane performances against some ranked opponents. He's been absolutely fantastic this year. And with his blend of size, again, 220, and speed, I think he could be one of the most intriguing athletic profiles in this 2026 NFL draft. That could get him selected very high. We've seen some guys, just based off their athletic profile, go very high in the draft. That draft capital is going to be very important in differentiating this very deep wide receiver class. Who do you want to take? I think Bell is a very good second round target when you're maybe more willing to take the riskier prospect that you know a little bit less about. I think Chris Bell is very intriguing, a ridiculous athlete, and the production has matched up so far.
You mentioned some of those games where he had that great run in the middle of the season. He was putting up outstanding numbers. I think that Miami one really put him in
Yes.
the mainstream here. I think that was like a standalone game on a Friday night
Yep.
against Miami, and everyone was watching that game, and he just absolutely blew everyone away. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Everything you said, super on point. Chris Bell is an athletic freak at his size, and that's what really stands out. Once he gets up to speed, no one's catching him. My only drawback with Bell, the only reason I'd let him slide this far, is I don't know if I see enough of the fluidity, the mobility yet at wide receiver, and that plays into his route running as well. He definitely has the size, and he has that long speed. It's just the in between, getting open, separating at the next level. Once defenders get bigger than they are in college, better tacklers than he's facing in college, then I wonder if that size won't be quite enough on its own. Not saying he doesn't have long-term potential; he absolutely does. Just maybe expect a little bit of a slower start in the NFL than some other receivers.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the 20th player in this mock draft. I'm going to go with a running back, Emmett Johnson, out of Nebraska. Johnson has absolutely shot on to the scene here over the back of this season. He's put on a stretch of like 5 straight games of 100 plus yards. You have to go back to as far as week 4 to see a game where he has under 100 total scrimmage yards. Because he's just been great as a receiver and as a rusher. He ended the regular season as the top rushing producer in the Power Four conferences, 1,451 rushing yards, a great number. Fairly efficient with it as well, high touchdowns. His numbers really just look great across the board. Leads among the running backs with 46 receptions as well, showing that he was really just the entire offensive engine for this Nebraska team. On film, you can see a little bit of everything. He's not the biggest running back, only 200 pounds listed as right now. But at the NFL right now, 200 pounds isn't a deal breaker by any means, especially if he can test a little higher, measure a little higher at the combine. He has exceptional vision, and that's a reason that they put so much pressure on Johnson to be the focal point of this offense. His vision is great. He finds open holes consistently. And well, I think the reason he's this far down for me, he doesn't seem to have the athleticism to really pop at the NFL. And at 200 pounds, you want to have that elite athleticism. I think he's just a good athlete. But combine that with the vision he has, I think he can absolutely earn a starting job in the NFL, even if he's not drafted to be the de facto starter right away.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said there. Obviously, with Dylan Raiola, the quarterback, going down in the middle of the season, he's had to be the engine of the offense, like you said. Maybe not the greatest athlete in the world, maybe not the fastest running back you'll ever see, but a very good player nonetheless. A guy that's been getting a lot of Heisman buzz recently, so watch out for that. But definitely the center point of this Nebraska offense. With my next pick, I'm going to go with my tight end 2 in the class right now. Still a very fluid position group, as I said, but that's Eli Stowers, a tight end out of Vanderbilt, a guy that's been really broke out last year. A lot of people thought maybe he could declare that season, but he's going to be declaring this year, I expect. Leading all tight ends this season in yards, second in receptions, second in yards per route run. He's been very efficient, very impressive as a receiver. That's kind of been his calling card. He can block, but obviously at 235, not the most prototypical NFL blocker in the world when it comes to the tight end position, but a very capable receiver, a good route runner, a good separator. That's exactly what you want in the modern day tight end position on an NFL roster. There's obviously a lot more focus going to the receiving side of the tight end position, and Stowers it's a prototype of that. I think he can be a very successful NFL tight end. I think he'd be drafted pretty high because of how good because of how good he is as a receiver. He's got those incredible skills. He can make all the catches, contested catches. He's fourth among tight ends in that this season, but just a dominant receiver, a guy that I think can find a lot of success.
He's had an exceptional season. He's first in yards at the tight end position, first in yards per run at the tight end position. When you combo that efficiency and just general volume production, that's a special kind of season. I totally agree with you. If this were a tight end premium draft, I think he'd be much higher than this. But even in these non-tight end premium leagues, I think Stowers has a chance to take over as one of those fringe tight end one, tight end two type of players. He's just that good. This is my second last pick of this draft here, number 22 off the board. I'm going to go back to running back with the USC running back Waymond Jordan. So we only got a really small sample size out of Jordan. A very weird profile here. I think he only played 6 games for the team this season, and we don't have anything in the past to go on. Jordan is a transfer from a junior college from his first 2 years, where he absolutely dominated, but then transferred right into this USC offense that's been very good. You'll notice that this USC offense, I mentioned I watched them a lot this season. Jordan was part of that reason early on. It was super exciting watching him play out of this backfield. And once he went down, I think that was the turning point of USC dropping out of this college football playoff landscape. I think with a healthy Jordan all year, they would have been in that conversation. They had a really close game against Notre Dame where it was a rainy game. Jordan was injured, and at that point, you're facing 2 of the best running backs in this class without your top running back, and that was kind of a big difference-making game in USC's season. You look at the stats for Jordan, even despite playing half as many games as a lot of guys in this class, he still ranks pretty well in the 30s in the class. That's out of like 70-something qualifiers, I think. So the numbers were exceptional in those 6 games he played, and still his yards after contact per attempt ranks first in the class at that amazing 5.15 yards after contact. It just shows what he can do after he gets hit. He was breaking tackles at an exceptional rate and making big chunk plays out of those runs. Now, the reason he's this far is because we just don't have a whole lot to go off of with Jordan. The sample size is super small. Wouldn't be surprised to see him go back to college. But if he does declare in a relatively weak running back class, I think Jordan has some real potential to fly up boards.
Yeah, a guy that kind of came out of nowhere as that junior college transfer, like you said, but put up some really crazy tape, plays through contact really well, and I think you're right. I think he may come back to college for another season so we can get more tape on him, get a larger sample size. But I think that's a really good sleeper pick. I think a guy that maybe not a lot of people know about yet. Certainly a guy I learned about pretty recently about his success early in the season, but was fantastic when he was on the field for sure. For my last pick here, I believe it's pick 23. I'm going to go with a guy I don't have it in me to leave him off these mock drafts. That's Antonio Williams, a guy that I've been so high on this entire process and just had a couple bad breaks to make him fall down the rankings this season. Dealt with a hamstring injury, I believe it was, early in the year against LSU. Exited that game very early and missed the next couple games, kind of setting him back on the season. And Clemson was hurting without him at the wide receiver position. But as a prospect, he's fantastic. 5'11", 190 pounds. He is Cade Klubnik's partner in crime for sure. He's had some really great games this season, highlighted by a 142-yard, 10-catch performance against Duke. And who knows, maybe Duke ends up in the college football playoff. That could be a pretty quality performance. But as a prospect, Antonio Williams is a great separator, a great route runner. I think he's similar to a guy like Josh Downs, a guy that can separate with his routes very, very well. He's very quick off the line. He can shake defenders off their platforms, especially corners. He can play on the slide. He can play on the outside. A guy that can win deep, but not only that, make those contested catches. He may be under 6 feet tall. He may be only 190 pounds, but my goodness, he can climb the ladder and make some ridiculous grabs out of the air. So I think he's a fantastic wide receiver, a guy that I refuse to be a guy that I refuse to sleep on, and a guy I refuse to be let slept on. I think he's going to be productive in the NFL, and a guy that just had a rough season, just like Clemson overall, but one of my favorite prospects.
Absolutely. I thought Antonio Williams, either him or Cade Klubnik, you couldn't let both
Yeah.
those Clemson guys go undrafted in this mock draft. And I don't blame you. Antonio Williams is close up on my list as well. I think he was in conversation for the number one wide receiver in the class before this
Yep.
season. And obviously a tough season for Clemson, some injuries for Williams. I think Klubnik was banged up a little bit here and there as well. I think all of that combined with how well this wide receiver class has turned out has really just buried Antonio Williams down this list. But if you can get him at the end of the second round into your third rounds of your rookie drafts, that's an absolute steal
Yep.
of a player right there. All right, the last pick here, the 24th pick in this mock draft. And they're looking at my list of players. There are so many names that I think are still second round talents, and it shows how deep this class is. I'll do a quick run through after this pick of some of our honorable mentions as well, just to get their names out there for you to keep in mind. But the player I'm going to go with right here is Omar Cooper Jr. He is the other wide receiver for Indiana alongside Elijah Sarratt in this Fernando Mendoza led very good offense. Cooper has complemented Sarratt extremely well. Cooper, we've seen mostly played as a slot this year, but previously he'd played out wide, so it's by no means a restriction on his profile. He's 6 foot, 204 pounds. He can absolutely play outside or in. What really stands out in his profile to me is the way that he makes players miss in the second level. Once the ball is in his hands, he can make guys miss like no one else. Ranked second in the class in missed tackles forced with 24. He has incredible contact balance, speed, acceleration, change of direction. I can think back to some highlights early in the season where he got hit by 2, 3 defenders and still managed to stay up. Just no one could bring him down with their tackling. It's a skill that I think will translate into the NFL level, a league where these big plays generated by the wide receivers making defenders miss are very sorely needed by a lot of offenses, and it's a place that Omar Cooper Jr. can really fit in well.
Yeah, Omar Cooper Jr., one of my sleepers in the class. A guy, like you said, great contact balance. He's also good after the catch, good route runner. A guy that can get a lot of design touches. In this Indiana offense, you see him get a lot of screens. He's a great wide receiver, obviously very athletic, can make some ridiculous catches when you give him the chance. Think of that Penn State game, the last play of that game, the game-winning, one toe in the end zone grab that sealed it. Maybe the best catch we've seen in a long time. But Omar Cooper's a good prospect. I think he could have some success in the NFL.
I'm just going to run through here. We're through our 24, but I'm going to run through a couple players that are just kind of on the cusp here. At quarterback, we have, like I mentioned, Klubnik with Clemson. A down season for him, but he showed last year. Maybe was the QB1 in this class going into the year with what he showed last year. If NFL front offices look at that production in the past and can explain away some of the struggles this year, even this year, he had highlights as well. So Klubnik is definitely a consideration in the NFL draft for like a second, third round pick. At quarterback, you still have John Mateer, the Oklahoma quarterback. Had a shoulder injury that really derailed his season. I think he's probably playing through that injury. Has definitely dropped his statistical production. But look, early in the season, he was in the Heisman watch early on. At running back, we have Katron Allen, who's like top 3 in rushing yards among the Power 4 running backs, and still didn't manage to make our list. That's just how deep this class is right now. Katron Allen, a great big running back, can take on a significant workload. His backfield mate at Penn State, Nicholas Singleton, was a darling of the Devy community previously, had a great season last year, good pass catcher, great breakaway speed. LJ Martin, another big producer, BYU, big running back. Jeremiah Cobb and Darius Taylor, maybe some more specialized backs. Taylor as a pass catcher, Cobb as more of a shifty runner between the 20s. At wide receiver, I've got Chris Broussel, probably like a Denzel Boston light, maybe out of Tennessee, has put up great production. We've got some smaller wide receivers, Eric Singleton Jr., Zachariah Branch. some real blazers out there. You can be used in the screen game underneath really well. Jeremy Bernard, Alabama, do it all wide receiver at 6'1", 204. I've even got another tight end on this list, Tanner Koziel. Not sure how to pronounce his last name, but Houston tight end, a jump ball specialist. This guy's 6'7", 250 pounds. Led the conference, led all Power 4 tight end, in contested catches. Maybe not that yards after catch guy like the other tight ends we highlighted, but has a role in the NFL. Just show you the depth of this class, how many players are in consideration right now. We just did 2 full rounds, and there were so many guys
Yep.
on the cusp that could have been included.
Absolutely. Hope you guys enjoyed this 2-round 2026 Rookie Superflex mock draft. Go ahead and comment down below who your favorite pick was, who you think the top player in the class is, like we said before, and we will make sure to go through those comments and respond. Don't forget to like and subscribe for content like this all off season long. We will be highlighting draft content as well, so get ready for that. It's going to be a lot of stuff coming out, especially early next year. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.